Um, but good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Today I have been having one of those days, and I am trying desperately to kind of like revive myself. I've been up since 5 a.m., but the grind never stops. Let me just tell you, I'm always grinding, trust me. But anyway, I just wanted to, I don't, excuse me, as I've told you before, the weather is so dry here, so please forgive me if I clear my throat a couple times. But I try to make sure that I'm um, hydrated and everything, and sometimes, you know, it works, and sometimes it don't. But anyway, we are finally getting back into the California weather that we're used to. So I'm very excited personally that I can, have my little shoulder out. You see it? You see my little shoulder? Mm-hmm. It's out, y'all. It's out. But anyway, a couple things I wanted to touch on today. For our first topic is world wishes, and obviously, this is where I bring world news, and we kind of talk a little bit about what's really going on in our in our world. And one of the things that this just was just baffled about is, okay, Tiger Woods. Let's talk about Tiger Woods. Now, first of all, if you decided to kick it with him and you already knew how he was prior to you, now I'm not sure if this is the lady that uh, basically that he had the affair with her, but what I'm confused about is, you know, now she apparently is wanting to um, file some type of grievance, and but I think it's a lawsuit with, yeah, it is a lawsuit against him, uh, and his trust. And it's crazy to me because I don't know if she just got involved with him because he was Tiger Woods. I mean, I don't know. People, I mean, to people, but at the same time, you now want to have take him for all that he's worth, but you want to talk about how you were abused. Now, do not get me wrong. I am not advocating abuse. I do not think that is right in any capacity. But I also believe, and it's not unfortunate, but I just speak the truth. I also believe that there is a certain type of female and male, possibly, that uh, uh, gravitates towards abusive behavior. Now, let me put things in perspective. First of all, you know how you people be out here praying, "Oh Lord, bring me my husband, bring me my wife," blah 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 blah. Let me say this: you cannot rush perfection. Period. If you are asking for a mate to be brought to you, that's fine. But you also need to be patient. You can't go rushing into it. Just because you saw Tiger Woods coming along and he was rich and didn't have a wife anymore, didn't mean he was specifically the man for you. What basically happens into a relationship, you're not even prepared to be in that relationship. If you are a hot mess, what you're going to attract? Hot ass mess. And when you attract that hot ass mess, you have to have the expectation of being able to try and work through whatever you want to work through, because once you become intimate, you have feelings. But you didn't want to be patient and wait. You know what I mean? And didn't nobody say he was going to be somebody that was working at McDonald's. But at the same time, if you're trusting that you're going to be given someone that's of good quality and caliber, then just wait. Wait on them. Because all the things that you're wanting are going to be manifested in that moment, in that relationship, so on and so forth. So if you don't have the patience, unfortunately, that's mess. But basically, it's, this is, the first suit was filed in October of last year, 2022, and, and um, that this was also filed against a trust that was owned by Tiger Woods, and it violated the Florida Residential Landlord Tenant Act by breaking the oral uh, Tennessee agreement. And so whatever that means, but it's basically, has he's been the defendant since October in a lawsuit. Apparently, um, there's some type of response that they're going to break out with. But uh, the things that happen in in people's lives, and you would think that Tiger would have learned from the first experience. Everybody wants to attribute it to a biracial issue, meaning that, because he was in a biracial marriage and now in a biracial relationship, that, she's going to maybe more, be privy to something more than what he would be privy to, or whatever, and that he hasn't learned his lesson because he's decided to, you know, philander with women that uh, basically do him no good or show him no value to him. But then here's the thing, um, that both cases are being brought by uh, into the Florida court because they are going into a family law situation. And Fisher, who is one of the attorneys on the case, tried to reach out to get more information, and they didn't want to talk. But the reality is that um, these allegations against Tiger Woods um, indicate that it has something to do with where they lived and um, some of their property and stuff like that. So people just find anything to sue somebody. But if you're trying to get away from someone that is toxic and not healthy or whatever, what difference does it make? Somehow, some way, you're going to be okay. So if you're just doing this for the money and you're just doing it because you want some property or whatever, I think that's asinine. Because and maybe because I'm different, a different breed in terms of women go. I'm going to survive. I will survive. Hey, hey. Walk out the door. Just turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome anymore. You know how it goes. But anyway, um, but it's just like a bunch of hoopla, and we really don't know what's going on. But basically, she packed a suitcase for a short vacation because for now it's revealing that she's been locked out of the house. She can't get in. Um, she came from the airport, and the last thing you want when you come from the airport is not be able to get in the house. But basically her lawyer said that it's hard to confront um, the issue, basically because they're trying to resolve certain wrongdoings and they were basically in the midst of committing. But it sounds like that there's a whole bunch of stuff being thrown out there on the table, but nothing's gonna really stick, because I heard possession was 1/10 of the law or whatever. So if she don't have a key and she can't get in, hey, who's to say she really live there? You know what I'm saying? Visiting girl. So I would move on. Shoot. But who am I? I'm just. a woman building her own. This is what I'm talking about. These females gonna get enough for trying to latch on to these men for what they have, because it used to be back in the day when men was stupid. And I'm not saying, and I don't mean no offense, y'all. I'm just playing, but not really. No, really, y'all will get involved with these females, and upon becoming involved with these females, you end up in a space where you don't want to be. And that is on the outside looking in your damn self. So, with all that being said, I hope Tiger learns from his mistakes. But at the same time, if he's putting his hands on somebody, he don't have a right to have. He needs to pay that girl something just to get her out of the picture. You know, um, because otherwise it's going to be one of them things where it keeps going on and on and on. And even though they ain't in Hollywood, California, I like liken it to Hollywood, where everybody just sues everybody and thinks it's okay. It's ridiculous. um and the reality is if he's putting his hands on her, and then what I don't get is, I was always educated that men or women abuse men or women because they've been abused or seen abuse. So then that makes me wonder, and I get that there are different cultures, and I know his mom's different from a different culture, and I'm not sure about his father. I remember, but I don't remember. So some cultures, they believe in doing stuff like that. So if he grew up in a household where his parents' culture was to put their hands on each other, then that might explain why he's beating women. But he whatever therapy he's supposed to have or had or whatever, it ain't working if this girl's saying that he's abused her. But anyway, I just hope that works out, because it's kind of like that 7-year thing. How things repeat themselves every 7 years. And here we are in 2022, 2023. So that would have been 2016. Seems like right about the time there was some issues going on with him, and maybe a little bit further back. But Lord Jesus, if you don't, need to learn, because you ain't gonna get too many options or too many opportunities to where you don't have to go to jail. So you know what I'm saying. But anyway, moving on to our next topic in world news. I found it very interesting that basically the school systems now are trying to say that children in high school, or high school students, in anxiety is being increased by school itself. Okay. I can imagine, they got shortened classes, the hours and things like that. I mean, you remember back in the day, you used to be able to go out for recess. Child, they don't have no recess. Shoot, the recess is getting out early. I mean, when I'm out Ubering, I pick up kids that are going to school at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And it's almost like college or college prep and stuff like that. But some of them aren't even, they're freshmen, juniors, and, they're not even in a senior at that moment. But in general, anxiety disorders are the most common, like they say, mental health issues going on with anyone. But people will holler, "Oh Lord, I got anxiety," in a minute. But it's true. Like we talked about quite some time ago on our show, is that anxiety is a umbrella name for many things. But schools basically are saying, it's being said that schools are giving the kids anxiety because there's a significant difference between their temporary anxiety over school and anxiety disorders that might require professional treatment. But with this, they're saying teens with anxiety disorder experience very high levels of anxiety, and then typically they experience both physical and emotional symptoms. But for the most part, these feelings get worse over time rather than improving on their own. So they're trying to justify the difference between maybe a disorder or whether they're just getting anxious just in general because their schoolwork needs to be turned in, or they don't like their teacher or whatever. But you know, it's affecting their relationships with their peers and their family. And it's unfortunate because that makes me wonder, you know, are parents still being, you know, focusing more on the children as well as trying to provide for the household, you know? And then again, if that could be contingencies based on single parents or married parents. And then if you're married, are you having problems within the marriage, you know? So it's a lot of stuff going on. But you know, shoot, back in the day, parents used to just handle that stuff and they never involved their kids. Now you see parents having full-fledged conversations with their kids like it's okay to discuss stuff that really shouldn't be discussed with kids. And that's still the same because you're putting the responsibility on your teenager, that they should not have to worry about. And it's amazing because I was speaking with someone today and saying, you know what? People think that things change just because times have changed, and they don't. You know what I mean? Your kids are your kids. They should not be responsible for making you happy. And I don't know if this is a gender thing, meaning, I'm not gender, but a generation thing where the parents that are in this particular age bracket, 30s to 40s, raising their kids as friends instead of their child. And I just don't condone it. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like my son has a very good amount of respect for me. I do remember when he was younger, and I was sharing this with someone the other day, that, you know, he didn't want to listen to nobody else but me. He just was like, you are my mama. And I had to teach other people how to teach my child, because you can't, it's a certain way that you should communicate with your children in general, period, across the board. And I think it warrants a little bit of research and time to study these types of things so that you know how to best communicate with your child. But for me, the best way to communicate with my son, who is thankfully now 27 and he'll be 28 on the 17th of March, Lord's willing, I'm so excited. I feel that he's learned a lot of things. Most of it has had to be his journey. There are so many things that I wanted to protect him against. And, you know, there are so many things where people would try to make it seem like I was taking his side over their side. But this is what I always say: right is right and wrong is wrong. So I don't get into it, regardless of the people that think I am into it, or regardless of the people who think I'm doing things for Cam. No, Cam does his own thing. He hones his own stuff down. However, what I'm getting at is there were times when I had to educate people, teachers, coaches, other family, family and friends, on how to communicate with him. And, you know, it was imperative to communicate with him in a way that you had his attention, because, you know, he could be doing multiple things at once and not really be paying attention. So, you know, the best way to grab his attention was I had to put my hand on the shoulder. Put my hand on the shoulder, he would look at me, and we would communicate effectively, and then I would ask him to recite back to me what I had asked him. But it was not easy doing that over the years. It was a progressive thing and something that I had to stay on top of daily. So to me, when you're a parent, you have to decipher what's important to you. And these teachers at school should not be raising your kids. So if your kids have anxiety, that's a reflection of what's going on at home. Point blank, and the period. Teachers are teachers. Your kids come to school, they're supposed to be teaching them the book knowledge, what their curriculum is. You know, they're responsible for a curriculum. They don't raise your kids. But when you send your children to school and they're being taught by teachers, now you've taken them out of the home element And so therefore and thus you have your kids being taught by somebody else, and then you're in, like, you want to go ham on the school if something pops off, but you didn't do what you were supposed to do in the first place. Preach, church. Y'all better act like you know, because these kids, I don't care what you say. I watched this show on Netflix called Atypical. Love it. It's so hilarious. The son, they have a son and a daughter. The son is autistic and he's 18. So he's very high functioning. But one of the things that I would do differently, if I was the mom in that family or the parents in that family, is I would not let their daughter she got accepted into a prep school because long story short, she's an athlete, so got an academic scholarship into a prep school. And so she goes to this school, but she's worried before she leaves the high school she's in about her brother, who's actually her big brother, obviously. But she's worried about him because she's always taking care of him. I mean, like making sure he's okay, making sure, because he, like, if he gets bright lights or something that activates his autism, he'll run and hide, and then they're like having a man search for him because nobody can. But obviously this is not something that he really comprehends to be able to not have to do that. But anyway, with all that being said, they put this responsibility on their daughter. And so if he's 18, she has to she has to be between 15 and 17, obviously, in high school. So she is having the brunt of the responsibility for her older brother, who has a learning disability. The mom, she done had an affair. It's a lot going on, but it's a good show. But my point was to take away from the fact that, children should not be made responsible for adult things. So the anxiety that I feel that the news is talking about recently is not from the school. It's, that child or teenager's responsibility is to do their homework, get it done. If you have a little job after work at McDonald's, okay, figure out how you're going to do your homework and get your work done at work and do whatever, your household chores. But parents have slacked off, and their kids, they have sex, they smoking weed, they doing all kind of stuff at 14, 15. I mean, we were sneaking and doing it, but they knowingly are being allowed to do it and being placed in a position of an adult. So it's no wonder they got anxiety, child. But I just say, child, parent your children. Don't let your children parent themselves. That's a shame. But anyway, finally, on our segment of world news, I wanted to say the NCAA bracket in 2023, March Madness bracket basketball tournament seeds to be set in sex selection on Sunday. So if you are into the NCAA, you may want to be waiting in the news to see. It says that Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern on CBS, they will be building the bracket. So friends and family, make sure you're in the know. We're moving on to our next segment. We'll be right back.